Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial series / crash course on ROS2. If you have never used robot operating system before, even ROS1, or if you want a practical and quick refresher of the basics, this series is for you. And very quickly, so you don't get confused, ROS means Robot Operating System, ROS1 is the first version of ROS, and ROS2 is the second version of ROS. ROS2 is now stable enough to be used, so this is the recommended way to start with ROS. In this series, I will sometimes use the term ROS or ROS2, and when I do, I will be talking about the same thing. So the goal of this crash course is simply to get you started with ROS2 in a very short amount of time. You will learn how to install and set up everything, how to use the main ROS2 concepts with the command line interface and tools, and you will also write your own ROS2 programs with Python. In fact, throughout the series, we will do together a small but complete ROS2 application using a 2D simulation of a robot. I have designed the series so that you can really get a better understanding of the global picture and also get some practical knowledge that will be useful for your next steps with ROS2. In this tutorial series, I will target the ROS2 Humble distribution, but the concepts and most of the code will also work for other ROS2 distributions. Now, there are some prerequisites you need in order to use ROS. Basically, you have to be familiar with Ubuntu and the Linux command line, and to write ROS code, you will also need to know a bit of Python and C++. But here we will stick to Python, so just Python will be fine. Now, this crash course is great to get you started, and if you want to go further and dive into more details, concepts, projects, and C++ code, I have also a much bigger and complete course on ROS2. So if you are interested, I've put a link in the video description below, and I will talk a bit more about this later on. Now let's get started with the series. In this first episode, we are going to install and set up ROS2 Humble on Ubuntu 22.04 so that in the next episode you can start using ROS functionalities. Here I am going to start from Ubuntu 22.04 that I have already installed on a virtual machine in VirtualBox. You can use either Ubuntu installed with a dual boot on your computer or in a virtual machine, it's up to you. So to install ROS2, let's first open a terminal, and I'm going to put this on the side, and let's also open a web browser. I'm going to open Firefox here. Okay, and let's also put this on this side, and let's search for ROS2 Humble. Okay, you will get to, so let's zoom a bit here. You will get to this page on docs.ros.org. Okay, make sure you have Humble in the URL. If you don't have, maybe you are reading the documentation for another version, so let's click on Humble here. And then here you can see the table of contents, and you're gonna choose Installation and click on Install Humble. Alright, now you're gonna choose the binary packages installation, not building from source, and you're gonna go here with Ubuntu and Debian packages. And now we have the instructions to install ROS2 on Ubuntu. So I'm gonna follow here just the instructions that we need. And just a quick note is that maybe when you browse this documentation, the instructions will have changed a tiny bit, but that's okay. It's just because, well, the documentation is quite frequently updated. So if you see something that is just a little bit different, no worries, just follow the instructions and everything will be okay. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we have UTF-8. So we're gonna type locale in the terminal here and make sure that we have UTF-8. So here it's good. If you don't have it, then you're gonna, well, just run those commands, put your passwords. Okay, so that's gonna install some stuff. It's already installed for me. You run those lines here. Actually, let's put this like that. All right, so you run the 4 lines. And then let's check local again, and of course, it's okay, you have UTF-8. Now you will need to set up the sources, because you can't just install ROS2 like that. You will need to set up the sources so that your computer here can find where to download ROS2. And well, those instructions here may be removed in the future or maybe modified. So if you don't see that, don't worry and just go to the next step. But what you can do is just do this apt cache policy grep universe And if you see stuff like that with 500, and then, well, you see Jammy and Universe stuff, then that's okay. You don't necessarily have to have the exact same thing with, for example, US here. You can see I have FR, but the important thing is that you see 500 and Universe. So if you don't have those, you can run those two commands here. I'm not gonna run those, but you can run them if you don't have the correct lines. And now is really the step to actually set up the sources. So you're gonna run this line first to install curl and different functionalities. So here actually I already installed it before, so nothing to do for me. Then you run this line, okay, and add the repository to the sources. So you just copy and paste the line, and then you are good. What you can do is now do an update, so sudo apt update. This is going to update, and you can see that you should have something like that, packages.ros.org with ROS2. So you will have something similar. And one important thing is that before you install ROS2, let's do sudo apt upgrade to upgrade all the packages we have. Okay, so you may have a lot or not, it depends. When was the last time you actually upgraded your system? So I'm just gonna put yes and wait for the upgrade. Okay, and now you can go down into the instructions. So you have a warning here, but nothing to worry about if you have correctly updated and upgraded the packages. So now everything is up to date on the system. Now you can install ROS2. So here you have two choices. You can install ROS2 with this ROS-Humble-Desktop or ROS-Humble-ROS-Base. So ROS-Base is actually, you can see the bare bones, just the communication, the command line tools. You don't have any graphical tools and utilities. This is what you would want to have in a limited system, for example, on a Raspberry Pi, or if you have a computer with very low resources, or if you don't have a graphical interface, for example. But here what we want is to have the base plus also all the utilities, some demos, some tutorials, and some graphical tools. So we're gonna install this. So you just do sudo apt install ROS Humble Desktop, you press enter, and here, well, I've already installed it before for this tutorial, but you will see a lot of packages. So maybe you will have a few hundreds of packages for a few hundreds of megabytes to download and a few giga to be added to your hard drive. Okay, so that's gonna be a lot, so you press yes, and then you can wait for a few minutes. It's gonna depend, of course, on your internet connection speed and the performance of your computer. And right, once you have successfully installed this, then ROS2 is installed. And just a quick note here is that if you want to install any ROS2 package in the future, well, this is very simple, because all the ROS2 package for the Humble distribution, for example, will be ROS-Humble-something. So you will just need to run this command, sudo apt install ROS Humble dash the name of the package. So this is quite easy. Now, well, ROS is installed, but we can't just use it like this. We need to set up the environment. Okay, because, so let's clear this. If I just do ROS2, you will see that ROS2 command not found. So to be able to run ROS2, first you need to install it, which is done, and then you need to source a setup script here in every session or every terminal where you want to use ROS2. And so if we go to /opt, you will see that this is where ROS is installed. You can go to opt/ROS, and then you will see Humble. This is the distribution we just installed. So ROS Humble is actually ROS2 Humble, okay? And here you see we have a setup.bash script. And this is the script that we need to source here, okay? We need to source that. So let's go back to home directory and let's just source this script. And now that this is sourced, look at that. If I do ROS2, now, so we have the help actually of the command. We don't have ROS2 command not found, we have the help of the command, okay? Which means that this has been found and ROS2 is correctly installed and set up. Now the thing is, let's say I open new terminal and I do ROS2. Once again, I have the same problem. So I need to set up the environment. and now it works. Okay, so I will need to set up the environment for each terminal I use. Or if you connect with SSH, for example, you will need to set up the environment for each SSH session. And so that's not really convenient. All right, so what we're gonna do instead is we're going to add this line to the bashrc file in our profile here for the user, so that this line is gonna be executed every time we open a new terminal or session. Okay, so to do that, we are gonna use gedit, and then you can do bashrc. So tilde to go to your home directory /.bashrc. So this is a hidden file. Press enter, and you can see we have already a lot of lines, and all this stuff is gonna be executed when you open a new session or a new terminal. So you go to the very end of the file, and let's add a new line here. And what do we put? We put just this one. Okay, source /opt/ros/humble/setup.bash. Let's save the file. Let's quit. And now let's just quit all the terminals that we have. Let's open a new terminal. And when you open the terminal, this line will be executed because it's in the bashrc. Now I can do ROS2, and you can see now it is working. So when you have ROS2 with usage ROS2 and the help of the command, it means that ROS2 is correctly installed and configured. And congratulations, you are now ready to start using ROS2. Alright, that's the end of this episode. If you found it useful, you will definitely like my full course on ROS2 for beginners. This course contains more than 10 hours of content and will teach you everything you need to create complete ROS2 applications. You can find the link in the description. Thank you for watching, see you in the course or in the next tutorial of the series.